Hi, this is Misha, and this video is going to be a closer look at the Japanese Arisaka Type 44 cavalry carbine. Essentially, the Type 44 is a Type 38 carbine with a fixed folding bayonet. It's based on this carbine here. This is just a standard Type 38 carbine. It's in a few different videos of ours. It's just like the full Type 38 rifle. Got down to the Arisaka action. We just have a shorter 19-inch barrel with a shorter tangent sight here. Full-length wood handguard, and we have a bayonet lug to take the Type 30 standard Arisaka bayonet. This is a handy and light little gun, and it was well suited for several different types of troops. But they felt for cavalry, since they were already issued a saber, to also issue them a detachable Type 30 bayonet would be kind of redundant and add weight and unnecessary complexity. So, what they would do with the Type 44, they would just introduce this underfolding spike bayonet, which deploys and very easily. It's attached with this housing here. Got a large button to put it back on. Still have the same 19-inch barrel. Now, to accommodate this, they do have to move the rear sight further back on this gun. There's also this hook, which is part of the assembly. This isn't a sword breaker. This is for bayonet fatting, to hook an opponent's bayonet and hopefully twist it out of his hands, or at least freeze it up. The forearm is much the same, except it's of course inletted for the folding bayonet. The barrel band here also has to be inletted for the bayonet. And the front sling swivel, it has a downward sweep to it to better suit the needs of the cavalry. Rear side is the same. The action with dust cover is the same. Same rear sling swivel. Now, since we cannot have a cleaning rod under the barrel because of the bayonet, now we have this trap door here in the buttstock with a rotating lever on this side. You usually use a bullet tip. Sometimes if they're not too strong, you can just use your finger, but it has a, flip it back around, has a notch here to use the rim of a cartridge to open. On guns like this, there are two holes to store a sectional cleaning rod in, and then the jag and bore brush will be kept in a belt pouch with the soldier. This is a so-called first variation. The Type 44 would be adopted in 1911, which was the 44th year of the reign of the Meiji Emperor. And the first ones, as you see here, would be produced by the Tokyo Artillery Arsenal, Koishika. And of the first pattern, they would produce about 55,000. Now, they took the Type 44 quite seriously, especially its bayonet housing, so they would eventually lead to a few different upgrades and updates to it. This is a third variation. And these would start to be produced in the 1930s. In addition to having a few of the updates that they introduced to the Type 38, such as the concave safety. This would have a elongated bayonet housing, and it wraps around the top of the barrel more. This is free floated in a sense. The front side is still attached to the barrel, but it comes up through a recess here. All of this doesn't really touch the barrel. It sticks out of the sleeve. The bayonet itself is pretty unchanged. It's a little bit longer, but mostly the difference is with the housing. Stronger housing. This is meant to not put undue stress on the stock and try to prevent cracking. Also just make a stronger bayonet. It still has the storage compartment in the buttstock. Now they would go from a 2-hole design to a simple open design, and this is so they could store the jag and the brush in here with the cleaning rod. Now this is, as I said, a third variation. There's an intermediate second variation, which is in between. On the screws are separated further than on the type or variation 1, but not as far as on the variation 3. The screw is about here on a second variation. So it was an interim step when they were strengthening the design. Not many type 44 second variations were made. In the early 1930s, production switched from the Tokyo arsenal, which again had suffered the Great Kanto earthquake and was having other projects, to the Kokura arsenal, and Kokura would produce about 8,000 second variations. They would go on to produce about 13,000 third variations, and the Nagoya arsenal, the factory at Chigusa, I believe it was, would make another 13,000. So 55,000 first pattern, 8,000 second, and all told about 26,000 third. So relatively rare guns. Total production of the Type 44 was between 90 and 92,000. Most places say 91,000 and some change. They would start making these, as I said, in 1911, and production would discontinue along with most other 6.5 caliber rifles around 1942. I think the military received its last batch of Type 44s in 1942. While these weren't produced in large numbers, they were popular. They were used pretty extensively by Japanese soldiers in China during the 30s. They were especially popular in areas where cavalry were called upon to ride on horseback, so in areas where there weren't good roads. This allowed them to still have a bayonet on their gun for emergencies, but it wasn't as cumbersome as having a Type 30. As I said, they would also carry a saber, which is the primary blade they would have been using. As those troops would be transferred to the Pacific in World War II to fight against the Americans, quite a few Type 44s would go along with them. Also, quite a few Type 44s would be sent back to Japan for refurbishment. Again, they've been in the field for quite a while in China. And they would be reblued, in some cases restocked. And quite a few of these would remain on the Japanese home islands. I guess they were stockpiling for possible American invasion, so you'll find quite a few that were captured on the home islands. This is why you see more first variations with the mum still intact than you do thirds. Most of the thirds you find maybe are in excellent condition but have a ground mum. More firsts will have a mum, although you find quite a few with ground mums as well, because most of these weren't captured by Americans, they were surrendered to Americans by the Japanese. Just kind of interesting. These were pretty popular bring-back trophies. For one thing, they were small, easy to take home. They were also interesting. I mean, it's a kind of a cool gun. Unique, and they shoot real well. The extra weight on the barrel helps give it a really nice balance. It's the typical smooth Arisaka action. Dust cover and all that. Holds 6.5 millimeter Arisaka rounds. Has a safety here, just like any Arisaka would. Same reliability, durability, same very strong receiver. Just an interesting variation. So I thought we would revisit it, look at it in more detail, and also look at the third pattern, which wasn't originally available. But yeah, the Japanese Type 44. If you have any questions or comments, we welcome them below. If you like the video, please click like. If you haven't already subscribed and have the time, we'd really appreciate it if you would do so. Otherwise, this is Misha, and we'll catch you next time.